What does it mean to be human, when the very essence of your being has been twisted into something unrecognizable? As I stood on the cracked pavement of East Liberty, the ghostly remnants of the once vibrant neighborhood whispered secrets of what lay beneath the surface. The shadows danced under the flickering streetlights, casting eerie shapes that mirrored the turmoil within me. I was not just a man. I was a survivor of a nightmare, a mutagenic experiment gone awry, and every pulse in my veins screamed of the horrors I'd endured. The sterile walls of the laboratory had been my prison, a cold and clinical chamber where humanity was stripped away. I was subject number 113, a name that echoed through the dim halls of the facility like a death knell. They had fed me lies dressed as promises, injecting hope alongside the unholy serum that mutated my very DNA. The scientists, their faces, blurred and forgotten, sought to create something extraordinary, but what they birthed was a monstrosity. I could only recall the moments before my escape, the flicker of fluorescent lights above as I fled into the night, leaving the screams of my fellow captives behind. The streets of Pittsburgh were alive with the rhythm of the night, but for me, they felt hollow. Each echo of a footstep reminded me of the physical horror that had become my existence. My skin bore the marks of their experiment, a patchwork of scales and scars, reminders of the transformations I had undergone. As I moved through the alleys of the Hill District, I could almost hear the whispers of the ghosts of the past, the souls that had perished in that lab. Their cries fused with the wind that swept through the streets. I was no longer just a man. I was a vessel of pain and survival, a harbinger of the horrors that lurked in the shadows. But as darkness enveloped the city, something stirred within me, a primal instinct, a hunger for the very essence of life that had been denied to me for so long. I could feel the energy pulsating through the air, beckoning me to explore the depths of my new reality. My heart raced as I stumbled upon an abandoned church, its stained glass windows shattered, casting fragmented colors across the ground. The air was thick with the scent of decay, yet there was a strange beauty in the ruin that drew me closer. It was there, in that forgotten sanctuary, that the first signs of my new existence began to manifest. I reached out to touch the remnants of the altar, and a surge of energy coursed through me, igniting something deep within. I felt the pull of necromancy, a dark allure that whispered promises of power and control. Could I harness this force? Would it restore my humanity, or further entrap me in the web of horror that had become my life? As the night deepened, the ground trembled beneath my feet, and the shadows within the church flickered with a life of their own. I was both terrified and exhilarated, caught between the man I used to be and the creature I had become. The air crackled with tension, and I could sense that the city was not done with me yet. I was on the brink of a revelation, teetering on the edge of a dark abyss. But when night fell, something inexplicable happened. As the night deepened, the atmosphere in the church thickened, an almost palpable tension hanging in the air. I felt the shadows shift and pulse, as if they were alive, reaching out to me, inviting me to dance with the darkness. My heart raced, a wild drumbeat that echoed in my ears, urging me to step further into the unknown. Suddenly, the sound of a shuffling footstep broke the stillness, and my pulse quickened with both fear and curiosity. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. The flickering light cast grotesque shapes on the walls, and I squinted into the darkness, trying to discern the figure that emerged. Out of the shadows stepped a woman, her presence commanding despite the tattered clothes that hung from her frame. Her hair was wild, a cascade of dark curls framing a face etched with both pain and determination. "I thought I'd find you here," she said, her voice steady. "Ira, right?" I hesitated. How did she know? "My name." "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. "Call me Mara," she replied, stepping closer. "I've been watching you since your escape. You're not the only one who's been changed by that lab." She gestured to her own arms, revealing scars that mirrored mine, a patchwork of memories and anguish. They took everything from me, too. I felt a strange kinship with this woman, an understanding forged in suffering. "What do you want from me?" I asked, still wary. "To help you." Her eyes narrowed, a glimmer of something fierce igniting within them. "You're tapping into powers that shouldn't exist, and you need guidance. We can't let the darkness consume us." As she spoke, the shadows around us seemed to pulse in agreement, and I could feel the energy crackling between us. But I also felt the weight of my own fears. What if I can't control it? What if I become like them? I gestured to the darkness, the remnants of my past still clawing at my sanity. Mara stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You're not just a victim, Ira. You have a choice now. You can harness this power or let it dominate you. We need to confront what's lurking in this city. There are others who are searching for you, those who want to exploit your abilities." Swallowed hard, realizing I was standing at the precipice of something far greater than my own pain. "You're saying there are others like me?" "Yes, and they're dangerous. But they're also our only chance at reclaiming our lives." She reached out, her hand resting gently on my shoulder. "We can face this together." I felt an unsettling mix of hope and dread. The thought of uniting with others like me brought a flicker of warmth. But the danger was real and imminent. What do we do? My voice was barely a whisper. Mara's expression hardened. "We need to find the source of the power. There's a gathering tonight at the old theater on Liberty Avenue. If we can reach the heart of this darkness, we might be able to turn the tide." Before I could respond, the ground trembled again, and the shadows in the church twisted into grotesque forms, whispering secrets that clawed at my mind. I felt the pull of necromancy, the intoxicating draw of power beckoning me further down the rabbit hole. "We have to go now," I said, adrenaline coursing through me. As we stepped out into the night, the streets of Pittsburgh transformed before my eyes. The city pulsed with life. But it was a life tainted with fear, shadows lurking around every corner. I could sense eyes watching us, waiting for the moment to strike. Together, Mara and I plunged into the darkness, the weight of our pasts looming over us like a storm cloud ready to unleash its fury. But as we moved deeper into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being hunted. The danger was real, and the battle for our humanity had only just begun. As we made our way through the shadow-laden streets, the air thick with tension, I couldn't help but feel the weight of my own thoughts pressing down on me. The city felt different now, as if I were seeing it through a warped lens that revealed hidden fissures beneath its surface. I glanced at Mara, her determined expression a stark contrast to the chaos within me. "Are you sure we can trust the others?" I asked, anxiety creeping into my voice. "What if they're just like the ones from the lab?" Mara's gaze flickered to mine, a flash of doubt crossing her features. "I understand your fears, but we need allies. Alone, we're vulnerable." I wanted to believe her, but doubt gnawed at my insides. Each step felt heavier, a reminder of the scars that clung to my past. Memories of the lab flooded my mind, cold steel, sterile rooms, and the relentless whispers of experiments that turned me into a weapon. I could still hear the cruel laughter of the scientists, their eyes filled with greed as they toyed with lives. "Can you feel it?" I murmured, the shadows shifting around us like a living entity. "It's like they're aware of us." "Stay focused," Mara urged, her voice steady. "We're close." But as we rounded the corner, the theater loomed ahead, its facade crumbling yet imposing. Dark tendrils of energy snaked around its entrance, pulsating with a life of their own. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back. What if this is a trap? Suddenly, a chilling laughter echoed from within the theater, a sound that sent ice water through my veins. I recognized that laugh. It belonged to Dr. Hargrove, the lead scientist from the lab, the architect of my nightmares. "Ira, Mara," he called, his voice taunting, reverberating off the walls. "I've been waiting for you." Panic surged through me as I grasped Mara's arm. "He shouldn't be here. How could he possibly know?" "Maybe he's been tracking us," Mara whispered, her eyes wide with realization. "But how could he have—" Before she could finish, the doors of the theater swung open, revealing not only Dr. Hargrove, but a congregation of familiar faces. Other survivors from the lab, their expressions twisted with a mix of anger and despair. "Welcome to the show," Hargrove sneered, an unsettling glint in his eyes. "You thought you could escape? We're all part of the same performance now." A wave of nausea washed over me. These weren't just strangers. They were the remnants of my past, each one a reminder of the horrors we endured together. I had thought I was alone, but here they were, drawn together by the same darkness that had haunted me. Mara stepped forward, her voice trembling with a mixture of defiance and fear. "You don't control us anymore, Hargrove. We're not your puppets." His laughter deepened, echoing through the night. "Oh, but you are. You've merely begun to grasp the power I've bestowed upon you." The shadows around us thickened, swirling with energy that felt both intoxicating and suffocating. I could sense the darkness clawing at my sanity, whispering secrets that twisted my thoughts. "Ira, focus!" Mara shouted, but I felt my grip on reality slipping. In that moment, I realized the truth. This was a stage, and we were all players in a dangerous game, one where our lives were merely threads in a tapestry woven by a master puppeteer. The stakes had just risen, and as I looked into the eyes of my fellow survivors, I understood that our fight was no longer just against the darkness, it was against each other, against the very power that had once bound us together. With that realization, the weight of my past pressed down harder than ever. I had to confront not only the monsters outside, but also the ones lurking within. And as I turned to face the gathering storm, I knew that whatever lay ahead would challenge everything I believed about myself, and those I thought I could trust. The air inside the theater was thick, a living entity that wrapped around me, tightening my chest as I stared at the faces I once thought I could trust. They were twisted versions of themselves, shadows of the people I had fought alongside, and I felt a pang of betrayal ripple through me. Hargrove stood at the center of it all, a maestro orchestrating our despair. "Do you see?" he taunted, gesturing to the others. "They've all embraced the power I've given them. They understand the true nature of our existence now. You, my dear Ira, are the only one still caught in the past." I could feel the pulsing energy around us, dark and alluring, beckoning me to join them, to let go of the fear and pain that had haunted me for so long. But instead, I felt a fire ignite within me. "You're wrong, Hargrove!" I shouted, my voice echoing off the crumbling walls. "I won't be a part of your twisted game anymore!" Mara stepped forward, her presence grounding me amid the chaos. "Ira, we can't let him divide us. We need to stand together." But the glint in Hargrove's eyes told me he had already won. "Oh, dear Mara, you're so naive," he sneered. "They're not here to help you. They're here to remind you of the monster you all are. You should be thanking me for revealing your true selves." Suddenly, I felt a surge of energy from one of the survivors, a woman named Lila, who had always been quiet. She stepped forward, her eyes glowing with a fierce light. "No, we're not monsters. You twisted us into weapons, but we're not your creations any longer." With her declaration, the air crackled with tension. The shadows writhed, as if responding to her defiance. I could feel the energy pulsing through the room, a chaotic dance of light and darkness. It was like a storm building, and I knew we were on the precipice of something monumental. But Hargrove wasn't done. You think you can rebel against your own nature? You're all still bound to me. Feel the power coursing through you. Embrace it. As he spoke, I felt the shadows reach out, curling around my limbs, trying to pull me into their depths. Panic surged within me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. I closed my eyes, fighting against the tide, desperate to reclaim my will. Together. Mara's voice pierced through the chaos, rallying the others. We're stronger than him. We're not his puppets. In that moment, I opened my eyes and saw the flicker of resolve in the faces of my fellow survivors. They were not just memories of my past. They were a collective force, a testament to our shared struggle. The energy surged stronger, but so did my will. I took a step forward, feeling the darkness swirl around me, but instead of succumbing, I reached deep within myself, searching for the light that had always flickered beneath the surface. I won't let you control me, I screamed, and with that declaration, I felt a rush of power ignite within me. I could either embrace the shadows or defy them. And as I stood amid the chaos, I chose defiance. The shadows screamed in protest, but I was no longer alone in my fight. Mara, Lila, and the others stood beside me, their collective strength igniting a fire against the encroaching darkness. It was time to confront the puppeteer and reclaim our lives. As the energy crackled around us, I knew this was the moment of truth. The struggle was just beginning, but we were ready to face whatever Hargrove had in store for us next. The shadows recoiled, shrieking as we pushed back against Hargrove's influence. I could feel the energy crackling in the air, like static before a storm. With every ounce of defiance I summoned, the darkness around me began to fracture, revealing glimpses of light that had long been obscured. As I fought, I saw Mara beside me, her determination radiating like a beacon. Lila's eyes burned with an intensity that I hadn't known was possible, and the others rallied around us, each of them channeling their fears and regrets into a force that could no longer be ignored. We were no longer puppets. We were a united front, and together we would confront Hargrove. Enough! Hargrove bellowed, his voice laced with fury. The shadows lunged forward, attempting to reclaim their hold, but we pushed back harder. The cacophony of our combined wills surged like a tidal wave, crashing against him and sweeping away the darkness he had woven around us. Then, in an explosion of light, the shadows collapsed, shrinking back into Hargrove's form. He staggered, losing his grip on the power he had once wielded so effortlessly. I could see it in his eyes. Fear. The maestro had become a mere jester, outmatched by the very creations he thought he controlled. But as the energy pulsed, a sharp pain pierced through my side. I gasped, glancing down to see a shadow tendril had wrapped around me, leaving a jagged scar where it had breached my skin. The physical pain was intense, but it was the emotional toll that hit harder, the realization that even in victory, I bore the marks of his manipulation. I wasn't unscathed. I was changed. Hargrove, now weakened, stumbled back, his power flickering like a dying flame. "You think this is over?" he hissed, his voice now a whisper of its former self. "You've won this battle, but the war, it has only just begun." With a final defiant glare, he vanished into the shadows, leaving behind an unsettling silence. The aftermath was surreal. We stood amidst the remnants of chaos, breathless and battered. I turned to Mara, who was examining the others. Lila was clutching her arm, a new scar etched onto her skin, a testament to her bravery. "We did it," I whispered, but my heart felt heavy. The scars we bore, physical and emotional, were reminders that our fight was far from over. Mara caught my gaze, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "What now?" "Now we find out what he meant," I replied, my voice shaking slightly. There were fragments of his last words that lingered in my mind, threads of a larger tapestry yet to be unraveled. The shadows may have receded, but they had not disappeared entirely. As we began to regroup, I noticed a glimmer in the corner of the theater, a shadow that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It flickered ominously, hinting at secrets yet to be unveiled. "Over there," I said, pointing. The others followed my gaze, apprehension mingling with curiosity. "Do you think it's another trap?" Lila asked, her voice trembling. "Or a clue," I suggested. "Either way, we need to be careful." My own resolve surged again. Our confrontation with Hargrove had opened a door, and I felt a strange pull toward the unknown. As we moved toward the flickering light, I couldn't shake the feeling that Hargrove's departure was merely the prelude to something darker. The shadows may have receded for now, but I knew they were out there, lurking, waiting for the moment to strike again. And I would be ready. This was just the beginning. As we approached the flickering light, a chill ran down my spine. The closer we got, the more I could hear a low, rhythmic hum emanating from it, vibrating through the very floor beneath our feet. I glanced back at my friends. Their expressions mirrored my own, an uneasy blend of curiosity and dread. The tension in the air was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. When we reached the source, a pulsating orb of darkness floated just above the ground, tendrils of shadow swirling around it like smoke in the wind. It seemed alive, humming with a sinister energy that beckoned me closer. "What is that?" Mara whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "I don't know, but I think it's connected to Hargrove," I said, my instincts screaming at me to turn away. But I couldn't. Something deep within me felt drawn to it, as if it knew me, as if it had been waiting for my arrival. Suddenly, the shadows surged forth, enveloping us in a suffocating grip. I could feel them clawing at my mind, whispering promises of power, of vengeance. They were no longer mere shadows. They were a living entity, and in their embrace I felt a dangerous temptation to surrender. "Fight it!" Lila shouted, but her voice was drowned out by the cacophony of my own thoughts. Images of Hargrove's cruel smile flashed before me, and in that moment, I understood. This was his true weapon. The shadows promised liberation from pain, a chance to wield the power we had just fought against. But as I reached for the light, a horrifying realization struck me. The price of such power was not just my soul, but the very souls of my friends. In a moment of weakness, I could doom us all. And then, as if sensing my hesitation, the shadows twisted tighter, a malevolent laugh echoing around us, each chuckle laced with the promise of despair. I felt my grip on reality slipping, the orb pulling me in like a black hole. "No!" I screamed, wrenching my arm back. But the shadows didn't relent. They pulled harder, dragging me toward the abyss. I could see Mara and Lila reaching out, their faces a mix of horror and desperation. "Make a choice!" a voice boomed from the depths of the darkness. "Embrace your power and leave them behind, or sacrifice your chance to save them!" I was trapped in a nightmare, and in that moment, all hope shattered. The shadows whispered sweet nothings, wrapping around my thoughts, and I knew, deep down, that no matter what choice I made, I would never be the same. As I felt the darkness seep into my very being, a chilling thought crossed my mind. Sometimes the true horror lies not in the battle against evil, but in the choices we make when faced with it. I had become a vessel for darkness, and as I glanced back at my friends, I realized the price of my victory was far greater than I ever imagined. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story.